Why do you want to husband? Because you all think that I can't.
Hey, production values are us as usual. But I couldn't make it shut off. It just kept going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. Now, wait a minute. All right. Hey, it's me, the amateur conversationalist. No matter how you struggle and strive, you'll never get out of this world alive. Welcome to Counting the Days, episode number 4. The fellas today, as you see from the thumbnail, are going to explain to theists why human beings have morality. And it's not the reason theists think. But before we get started in the show, and let me get the phone number up here, if I can find the darn thing. Here's the call-in number. We'll get that scrolling across the screen. And so when Scott and Speed get here, if there's any theists out there in the audience this week, please call in and let them explain to you why you have morality. But before we do that, if I can make this work, fool that I am, we have just a new feature here. So, and my thanks to GeoSam for the artwork on this, and any of the artwork I've used so far in these first few episodes, provided by GeoSam. His channel link is in the description. But let's see if I have. Okay, I didn't turn the looping off. So it seemed like the first few shows I would come on screen first, and then I'd bring your actual hosts on. And so I decided to make it like a little formal thing every week. I'm going to have prepared comments instead of just speaking off the cuff, because we've all seen the horrible things that can happen sometimes when John speaks off the cuff. So, but my little piece today is about frustration. You may remember that within one of the shows earlier, I had told a quick story of how I kept hitting my head on the edge of the roof of the little gazebo I have set up in the backyard. It was frustrating the hell out of me. And then I finally gave into it and said, well, shit, I hope that thing, hits me 100,000. I hope I hit that 100,000 more times because it means I'm alive, And then once I gave into it, I stopped hitting my head less and less and less. And so something else happened here the other day. Now, being frustrated regularly takes a physical and mental toll from you. I'm learning that for optimal health, both mental and physical, avoiding frustration is key. Irrespective of the different views on free will, I now believe that I am the author of my thoughts, and I am the only one responsible for my state of mind. Recently, I was getting irritated, frustrated by a repeated occurrence. I have a phone that I use as a tablet. I put it in a 5-gallon bucket and hang it on the back porch at the back of the property, near the Wi-Fi inside. That way I can connect my Bluetooth buds and listen to music or podcasts as I do shit on the property. It kept losing connection, and it was irritating the fuck out of me. Each time it happened, I would have to stop what I was doing, go to the porch, take down the bucket, take out the device, and reconnect to the internet. Grumble, grumble, grumble each time it happened. But finally, I realized two things. First, I recently remembered how important daily exercise is at my age, and I've been doing so. Given that, I realized a few extra steps, a few extra trips across the yard is a good thing. Secondly, had I wanted to listen to some music 150 years ago, I'd have had to probably travel a half a day's ride to the nearest town to listen to a jug band or somebody playing a church organ. So now my frustration was ridiculous when put in perspective. Disconnect internet. Now I'm saying disconnect internet as much as you want. I look forward to the extra steps that will afford me. And like when we have the ability to beam music around the world into handheld devices in our possession, then hook a listening device to it, wireless, of course, that fits inside your ear so that we can listen to music in a large area, it's probably a good idea to keep in mind all the less convenient manners in which we listen to music before this marvelous technology. Technology, by the way, that I benefit from, but had no hand in creating. My life is more convenient thanks to the efforts of others. I had no rationale for experiencing frustration, plain and simple. And this has been Moments of Dunsery with the Amateur Conversationalist. I have to remember to turn that looping thing off.
We just keep evolving. We've grown a segment.
A new hat, Scott. New hat today.
Well, it kind of matches the lighter color of my puppy face tropical shirt. So I wanted to, keep the motif light.
Going full tropical on us then.
Yeah, I have to get some more hats. It's the only decent one I have as far as not a ball cap. And I've ordered a couple off Amazon, and then I think I ordered one kind of like that one at one point, and I had to send it back because it was too small.
Yeah, you definitely measure your head. Like I've got like a 25 centimeter head, and it's just very large. It's very difficult for me to get hats off the rack. I was lucky to find this one. It's a Stetson brand, and I didn't know they made cool, tasteful hats like this. I thought they just made cowboy hats.
Yeah, which are very, very tasteless. No, I'm just kidding.
But I saw on TV, I mean like YouTube most likely, somebody wearing this wonderful plaid fedora. It was like this red plaid, like somebody took their kilt and decided to make a fedora out of it or whatever. And I thought, man, I got to get me one of those. So you may see me in a plaid fedora in upcoming months. But yeah, if you can find one that fits your head, and if you have a large head, get it, and cherish it.
Well, and then it used to be where I live at. Man, I used to live in the main town. I live 15 miles away from Erie now. And then in Erie, of course, when I first moved to Erie decades ago, if you wanted a hat, you would go downtown and you would go to the Hattery, the store that was all just a hat. Like all they sold was hats. Like, and now you can't do that. Like,
well, we have a Hattery in downtown Fort Worth. But boy, it's expensive to get your own custom hat.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, just a plain felt hat fedora with, maybe a hat band was going to cost at a minimum of $350 if they made it for me.
Holy shit!
Of course, being Fort Worth, they also make some very fine cowboy hats. But so anyway, I explored that. But then I found some places online that were able to get me largish kind of hats, and so it's still kind of hit and miss when I order them. Oh, I love this. We're talking fedoras.
So, all right, we're three atheists talking fedoras.
Why not? I mean, to me, that's heaven. That's atheist heaven.
So, all right, I'm trying something different so that I don't make you guys jump out of your seats. I've got the phone app open in case someone calls, but I'm leaving the speaker off until we get a caller. Then that way, when the phone rings, it won't be like some nuclear explosion that blasts you out of your seats there. So.
You'll probably miss the call. So I got a really nice
because oh, go ahead.
I've got a nice black cowboy hat that I could wear to join you guys, but it's not compatible with my headphones. And if I don't use my headphones, for some reason I echo, and I don't know why. But you guys are using like speakers for monitors, right? That's how you hear your sound. How do you hear this?
I'm hearing my sound because I have my earbuds connected, but then you guys told me in a past episode that the earbud mic wasn't doing it, so I have the microphone on the laptop on. So my voice is coming from the laptop, but I'm hearing everything through my ears.
Yep. I don't get it. Anyway, how about those Christians?
Yeah, hey, so morality. And then, so like I said up front, of course, most deists would say that they have morality because it was given to them by God, and that God makes the laws and the rules and all that stuff. And I would say that all three of us say, no, that's not the way it works. But go ahead, fellas, set the table and see if we can get a caller.
Well, first, I want to ask a question, and we have 6 watching now, according to my YouTube browser over here. And I was born in the 60s, spent most of the 60s just not knowing anything about anything, because most of the 60s, I think I wore a diaper. But no, that's probably not true. But still, okay. Not the point.
Well, and then just so you know, in the future, during your 60s, you'll go back.
I'll revert back to that. Yeah,
right.
Looking forward to that. And then of course, I went to church in my teens during the 70s. I went to church some in the 60s, and all I remember from that is these scary dudes who are mad about something standing up in front of these podiums, and then they would smile afterwards, as we left. It was kind of a weird contrast to me even then, but I don't remember during those times hearing the word morality a lot.
No.
Like I would hear about righteousness, obedience, and faithfulness.
Yeah.
But I didn't start hearing about morality until this one guy who liked to fool around on his wife started talking to this other guy at the front of at the vestibule of the church that I was going to about the moral majority. And he was all in favor of that, even though he liked to screw around on his wife. It is alleged. But so my question to you, Speed, and to anybody in the listening audience is, when did churches actually start talking about morality? Did I just kind of miss it in my younger formative years? Have they always talked about things in terms of morality, or did they talk in terms of righteousness, obligations, faithfulness, obedience, and that kind of thing?
Yeah. family values kind of, is the big buzzword these days, and of course that's all political.
Right. Yeah. Ever since the phrase moral majority came along with Jerry Falwell and his bunch of just really straight, wonderful guys,
Yeah.
Morality has been a big buzzword and a big object of discussion, but topic of discussion. But I was just wondering, when it was it really that big part of the vocabulary in the formative years for listeners who were becoming aware of things in the 60s and 70s, maybe the 50s. But
okay, my introduction was in 1957 at 6 years old to the Presbyterian Church. And the minister used to give, these, little moral talks, about community and stuff, but he never used the word morality or pretended to teach us morality. And prior to going to church, I want to point out that I did not sacrifice animals or go around killing shit. I mean, I was a well-behaved 6-year-old boy, right? And so this whole morality thing is really difficult to unpack. The narrative we're hearing from Christians is you have no reason to be moral. It's all subjective and all that bullshit. So we get that whole ridiculous narrative from Christians, and then we get another narrative from philosophers of ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they make it way more confusing with trolley problems and all sorts of bullshit. And so the hope is to unpack a very, very complex topic, but and I called it the natural construction of morality in the human animal, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're born into a family, and you end up spending a lot of time in your mother and father's, well, in my case, my mother's arms, and there's a lot of closeness and nurturing. And you'll find that in any mammal. So there's something about, the family basically sleeping together, huddled together. There's that cohesiveness of animals. We don't kill each other naturally. Raccoons don't kill each other. They'll fight and bite each other over food, but they'll, they have all these mechanisms where they don't actually do any damage, or they do very little damage. And this is, so basically you're born into a family, and you start with your brain and your genetics, you start constructing a morality. And an important part of that genetic wiring is that you have been wired with some emotions, and you've been wired with sort of a this is good, I'm going to move toward it, and this is bad, I'm going to move away from it, switches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we move away from naturally is becoming angry and responding to anger and fear. These are things we move away from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of so the reason the raccoons work it out basically when they do have a fight is they don't like the feeling of anger either, and they don't like the feeling of violence or being in jeopardy, right? So
it's kind of a reward and punishment dynamic.
So that's about all genes can do, is wire you up with some emotions that tell you to go toward this and go away from that. But now flash forward to modern human morality, right? And there's a whole hell of a lot to unpack. Now the Christians will say that without God, they have no reason to be moral. I
think you might as well say without God,
I'm going to kill.
You have
people.
No reason to have verbs. Because I see how, to me, morality tracks a lot like language development in humans. Even though it
exactly,
it deals with behaviors. I don't need a God to have verbs. Have we heard the argument that everything is grounded in verb? All verbs are grounded in God or something from our presuppositionalists. It's just kind of ludicrous. Anyway, go ahead and continue. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah. So And then if you point out to them that when they go to Walmart, they don't know that they're going to say there are 30 people in the store, right? They have no idea how many atheists are in that group, that 30 people, right?
Very true.
Yet they automatically expect these people to behave morally, not to kill them, not to, beat them up or, so everybody has an expectation in a culture, in a society, that everybody else is going to behave morally. So the Christians are claiming that somehow the atheists stole that from Christianity, right? And of course, along with the narrative with Christians, they're going to give you a complete fabrication of world history that has nothing to do with reality at all. So they claim that God came first, then the word of God was put down for man, and then we went through that whole flood bullshit. And so Christian values are, where it all came from. Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus and all those people may disagree with them about their world history. So they'll use that. But I mean, you can see how much bullshit is involved in this Christian narrative that, without God, you have no reason for morals. Well, we all grow into a family, a community, a culture, and we develop morals automatically. We construct them, and we do so in the first 3 years of our life. Okay, we understand not to steal cookies from brother, not to beat the cat, hurt the cat, whatever, all that stuff.
Or not to react in angry outbursts and fits. You get feedback from that, and that feedback is usually either shame, kind of a shame response, like shame on you. I'm not saying that's healthy. I'm saying that that's how it's delivered. That feedback, or there's some sort of reward benefit kind of reaction where, oh, you helped your brother, here, have a cookie. Or food rewards aren't really supposed to be good for you, but oh, you can hey, why don't you play with this toy, some sort of reward for excuse me, for behavior that you want to reinforce. But at the same time, my grandsons are getting rewarded or getting some negative feedback for negative behavior. When my 1-year-old grandson says the word ball, and he really means a ball because he's carrying the ball and he's giving me the ball, he gets praise from me for that. Once again, morality has a reward and benefit response, a behavior and reward response, but so does language, because we want to encourage our children to speak to us. And so at the same time they're growing in their morality, they're also growing in their language usage. And it just, once again, they're kind of going along together. I look at morality development a lot of the same way as I do language. And you don't need a God to develop language skills. Why would you need a God to develop morality skills? You're gonna develop your morality because you're going to either get shamed for what you do or praised for what you do, or even physical rewards or physical deprivation for what you do. And so it's going to be a mixture of what you learn from your parents, what you learn later on as you grow from the people around you, your fellow students or whatever. And then at some point in time, you're going to start questioning things, maybe using language. People, when they get into their 10-year-old or so, into their teens, they may actually start using language their own way. In other words, have you ever heard, girls, just starting to use baby talk, as teenagers to kind of make people think they're so cute, maybe give them what they want or whatever. People will customize their own language. And at some point, they're going to customize their own morality. They're going to say, "Well, this stuff the church has been telling me, I don't agree with that."
I pop back in here because I just want to say real quick. So I think you hit on something very, very interesting. Morality. It's a kind of language, isn't it?
Yeah.
Morality. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, in that it's developed from the people around you. You may or may not need a language book, to teach you how to speak or express yourself. Long before writing, people got along and were able to speak languages. They were also able to reinforce or reward good behavior, moral behavior. It tracks, to me, it tracks so closely that it's something to consider. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Well, the thing you don't want to miss is, you talked about all this reward and punishment and all this stuff that comes from outside. None of that would work if it weren't for the animal you are, for the genetic wiring that you have. And there's something interesting when you compare it to language. I don't know what the current theory is on language, and I haven't kept up. But there was a language that developed in one of the islands out west. I forget, the Philippines or somewhere like that. And this language developed with they created all kinds of nouns and verbs, right? But there was no grammatical structure to it. And what they discovered is that the grammatical structure was created by the children that were born into that environment, learned those nouns and verbs, and the grammar came from the children. So the children constructed it as they grew through their tweens and teens. Mm-hmm. They actually built the language. So the youth apparently rewire and change our grammar and our language in every generation a little bit, and the older people don't. We become fixed and rigid in our language by the time we're 20 years old or 22, 23, and all of the development of that grammar, language, and I think morality happens in the youth, basically, in the culture. And what it used to be is youth and older people used to mix more. Now our youth have kind of become cultish and clannish, right?
They become their own little subgroup or subclass.
But the point is, morality. Now the philosophers will they'll go on and on about morality, and they'll have a big argument, and then somebody will say, well, what about murdering babies? When somebody is talking about the important thing to understand about morality, there's two things that you need to understand. Is number one, it consists of a whole lot of different hierarchies, right? With murdering babies being the thing we all agree we shouldn't do, right? Because and my raccoons would agree that murdering their children is not a good thing, right? So I mean, we have these basic powerful morals. And with those morals, those are the things we turn into law. We take those natural things that exist in mammals and we turn them into canon. We write them down and say, this is a law for our community, and we're gonna put everybody in prison who doesn't follow our law. So we got that core morality, right? And then on top of it, we've got all these other morals that pop up. Is homosexuality moral? Those things are gray area things that everybody is going to decide in the moment. And that's the second thing you need to understand about morality. It is not canon. It is not written down. It is something that we do as an activity. Okay. Every day you make moral decisions as an action based on what you are as an organism. So you've got this nest of built, constructed morality, and you started constructing it the moment you popped out your mama. And basically you got this nest, and you apply it to problems as you go. So morality isn't something that you can extract and start to make everything into canon. I mean, if we make everything into canon, we'd end up saying, oh, it is immoral not to wear white fedoras during a stream, right? We come up with all these stupid laws, right?
That's right.
And
Force
most
those
morality,
fedoras on everybody.
yeah, so morality is constructed in the organism based on the kind of organism we are, and it interplays with culture. You know, our group, our tribe comes into it, and we use it in the moment. And every now and then, as a community, as a group of primates, we have to get together and we have to write some of these things into canon. We have to turn them into law. It's like we're all going to agree on this particular moral. And like, I don't know of any society that thinks murder is a really good idea. Murdering your neighbor or your tribe member.
Usually for very good reasons, most societies think that murder is wrong, or at least what they will call murder,
right,
is wrong.
So it drives me nuts when you're having a philosophical discussion and a philosopher or a Christian will come up with some ridiculous thing that we all agree is immoral, and claim that somehow this poses a problem for whatever theory of morality you're trying to construct.
Yeah, and most people, as they're growing up, they may be innately following some quote unquote what we call a theory of morality, but usually it's going to be, you know, that disgust, displeased response to a behavior, or it's going to be anger, outrage, or something like that. When somebody behaves badly, it's often akin to an outrage to our honor, or disgusting to our sensibilities or our senses. Not saying, not that I'm saying that that's right necessarily. I'm just saying that's how we behave in response to behavioral or moral issues, and it just kind of unpacks from that. You don't really give a shit about moral theory until it's usually too late to do anything about it, because at least without real difficulty, because when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, when you're in your elementary and high school years, that's when your morality has been developed. And like you said, didn't you say it was like the first 3 to 5 years in which it's all been pretty much developed anyway? So,
right, and like you said, it's developed, and then in every generation, it is modified a little bit.
Right,
okay.
and there are certain psychologists and moral theorists that have actually done studies as a child development exercise or subject to kind of like when you're 4 or 5, what are you capable of in terms of morality? It's basically following what your mommy and daddy says. Morality is really is mama going to give me an ugly face if I do that?
Right.
And then it develops. Like there's a Rabbi Kohlberg who did a classic work in moral development, and then the faith development theory or whatever was done in a kind of a, I don't want to say classical work, but a lot of people have used his book called I can't remember the name of it now, but it's about faith development, the steps of faith development or something like that. James Fowler, who was a theologian. So but he tried to track on what Kohlberg and the French child development specialist Piaget wrote about the stages of human life. As you go through life, as you develop and mature, what are you capable of in terms of morality?
Yeah.
And so it does track the phases of mental and language development.
Real quick, I want to dip in and ask Mike a question real quick, and then I want to go to the audience real quick. But what's going on your screen there, Mike?
I've got a tribe here drawn in red. This is a tribe.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those are the
And,
evil
Oh,
tribes.
okay.
Now
All
I
right, so I
wanna-
wanted to dip in real quick and just say hello to everybody. Lori Hayes is here. David,
James.
Math. Yeah, hold on. You're getting ahead of me here. All right. Math Pigs in the house. Who else we get? Doubting Tom. Oh, there's Doubting Thomas. Doubting Thomas. Hey, did you get Mike's email?
Hey, Doubting Thomas.
I just emailed you
Eric
this morning.
311 is here, and of course we're all here. James Apperson, as Mike had just said a moment ago, and Kevin, the Trusty Ape podcast, is here. My buddy Kevin. Hive Science. Hello, Bree. Bzz, bzz, as she says when she comes in. And the last person here, which we already mentioned, James Apperson, the last person to post, as far as I'm seeing here on
I think the
on StreamYard.
The Trusty Ape podcast, I think, was the last one to. No, wait a minute. Bree was here or is here.
Yeah.
James,
The show. I'm just saying, like on my screen, as far as on StreamYard, the last person to post in the chat was James Apperson. Yeah, but yeah, Bree was the last person to show up.
And I just want to say I'm very pleased with the Fedora talk that went on in the side chat. This makes it almost worth getting up this early to do a
So
stream.
I want to point out that all the people that you just mentioned are in our tribe. Basically, we have a little tribe that we've developed on YouTube.
That's right, guys.
And Bree may have set herself up for a future problem, because she kind of intimated in the chat that she would be passing out fedoras to people.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Join the Federation. Oh, I get it. All right, James Apperson, I like the way you're thinking.
Federation. Oh, wow. Bravo, James. Bravo.
Fucking genius. This guy's a genius.
Guess what? I see a new feature segment in our future. Federation.
Oh, yeah. And it is not immoral for you to steal a size 8.5 fedora to get to me. It's just not. It's not immoral. So just wanted y'all to think about that. If you ever come across a very large fedora that you think, hey, Scott might like that one.
All right, I'm sorry, guys. Maynard saves in the house, so I have to do this. It's in Maynard's contract.
What is that? Oh, I see. You're pulling a Jay Bundy.
It's Maynard Saves has instructed me a very long time ago, and he's just put it on the screen. Smoke weed every day. And just recently I got back to doing that.
Yeah. Mushroom. Anyway, we won't talk about that. Okay, so the point is, if you drop a human organism into a tribe, into a culture, into any group, as a embryo, pops out your mama, it is going to develop morality that you recognize, that we could all recognize. And the problem is, and I'm going to defend Columbus here, right? Columbus was recently canceled. The problem is that when you're in a tribe, you have to learn to recognize who you are going to direct your morality toward. And when you're in a tribe and you find members of another tribe out there, right? You may not particularly see them as, you may see them as a threat. And because of your rationalizing that they do not belong to your moral object, the object of your morality, you may kill them.
They're barely human.
That's how tribes work. And when you look back to different cultures, okay, in modern culture now, we've expanded our tribe to mean the world. A lot of us, especially us libtards, right? We've gone worldwide with morality, and we recognize everything. But out here, none of us have a problem with swatting a fly, because he's way out here in a different tribe, different species. We don't give a shit. And nobody has a fucking problem with ripping a head of lettuce out of its native earth and chomping on it, right?
The screams of lettuce haunt me every night.
Yeah. So yeah, the screams of
the death throes from lettuce, man. Just like
another good band name, the screams of lettuce.
The screams of lettuce.
It's not a garden, folks. It's a killing field.
So all right. So I'm gonna jump in now, and we're gonna see if what I have to say coincides with any of what you've been saying. But here's what I have to say about morality. Morality is completely self-serving. Okay, morality begins with well-being. Okay, so you start with wanting to preserve your own life and to have the best existence for yourself. And then you add to that a few components. Okay, you add to that the human brain's ability to think in the abstract. Okay, so I have a sense of well-being, and now I can think in the abstract, so I can look at my neighbor, or I can look at my fellow tribe member, and I can say, you know what? I don't want anybody to punch me in the face. I'll bet you that person there doesn't want to be punched in the face. So if I don't punch them in the face, they're probably not going to punch me in the face. Okay. And then now you add the component that you guys have been talking about the tribe, about how human beings are drawn to live in groups. And when you have to live in a group, you have to consider the group in what you do. Mike was very right, and he said, yeah, us libtards, which I say shit like that all the time. The last barbecue my family had, my brother referred to liberal pieces of shit. And after he got done talking, I stepped in and I said, well, as a liberal piece of shit. And so it was just, one of them things. But yeah, so, okay, well-being. I can think in the abstract. I want to live in a group. You put all those components together, and it's a social evolutionary process, okay? You start with yourself and wanting to preserve yourself, and then when you get amongst the tribe, you realize that to preserve yourself, you have to respect the other people that are part of your tribe and treat them in the manner that you wish to be treated. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, we recognize that similarity, and humans are very good, and in fact, most mammals are very good at theory of mind, where we understand that the other person is seeing the world in the same way that we do. And therefore, when the other person hurts himself, breaks his leg, we can understand that pain, and that's called empathy, right? And that's how we extend into these communities. We got our family here. We've got our particular community here. We have our world state here, or our nation, and then we have our world of all the human beings. And then out here we have flies who we don't give a shit about, and lettuce we don't give a shit about. But there is this interaction between human beings in these groups, and we recognize and we treat each other morally. And this all develops pretty much naturally as this well-being thing is woven into the fiber of what we are. We are the kind of things, starting with worms, that knew how to move toward cool, good water and away from bad water, move up and down a gradient. That's built into biology. Basically, this whole well-being thing is built into biology. And, of course, we have more developed minds. We can extend and abstract, and we can understand that all of us here are pretty much perceiving the world in the same way, feel the same pain, have the same values. And all of this stuff constructs. But back to that one big point, that morality is constructed in the moment. We are of a substance. We are of a moral substance that we have been constructed throughout our entire history. So we are this kind of substance, And in the moment, we will make moral decisions. And if you try to turn that into some sort of a canon or rationality, you're going to run into trouble, not at the core of it, not at the murdering part, but in the fringes. You're going to run into all kinds of trouble. You're going to run into disagreements here. But what I wanted to point out, particularly for the Ute who have canceled Columbus, is that Columbus, in his day, the way he was constructed with this nation morality, right? And anything outside of that was considered more in the category of lettuce than a fly. And if you construct people with this, with like, okay, strong nationalism, MAGA, pride, make America great again, we're better, that sort of thing, you are automatically going to marginalize everybody out here, and you're going to put them in the category of flies, and you're going to apply moral badness to these people. Now, in modern,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, yeah, that thing that you just brought up, like, okay, so what did that even mean? Make America great again? Like, that's what blew my mind is, okay, so wait a minute, are you talking about going back to the 50s when,
right?
Yeah, America wasn't really so great for everybody. Like, come on,
No,
like,
no, not at all. Yeah, it's just, this, so basically our liberal idea about the world is that we encompass all human beings and a hell of a lot of animals, and we try to maximize well-being for a lot of people. So I mean, we've changed, and we change in every generation, but the thing is, don't damn everybody from prior generations because they had the same moral fiber as we do. They just had different circles. They were brought up in a different kind of construction. And you can go ahead and judge them if Columbus popped up today and started doing that shit, he'd be in serious trouble, and rightly so. But back in the time that they made those decisions, you have to consider and be less judgy of how these people were constructed, how their morality was constructed. So
well,
morality.
look, I need to just put a pin on that too, because that's the problem that you're speaking to, right, Mike? Is that okay? It's fine to look at past actions. Okay, we can look at something like what you're talking about, or look at how women were treated in the past, and we're judging ourselves, and we're saying, yes, that's not the right way to act. We're going to act differently now. We're going to treat those people the way they're supposed to be treated, but that doesn't mean that you have to, the people that acted that way in the past, they don't need to be punished, okay? Because that was, as you said, that was a different time. We have learned from their actions, and we have modified our social behavior and our societies to speak to that. But to go back into, like you said, cancel Columbus, punish Columbus, we're judging you based on our standards today. And because our standards are different today, you are a total piece of shit back then, and we're going to just ignore it. That's wrong. That's totally wrong. It's almost like throwing away history. But anyway.
And he's dead. Yeah, and the thing, we have to understand what we're doing. We have to understand what we're doing. We're saying today, this stuff is not acceptable, right?
Yeah, or he's not our hero today.
And it's a good thing to remind ourselves that all those people in the past, they dead.
But the thing is, Columbus, I can't want to say Columbo, which he ought to be a hero.
Oh, I love Columbo.
He ought to exist, but he never did. But Columbus did. And it's the funny thing is, I just listened to a 3-part podcast series on the show, the podcast show Behind the Bastards. And they featured Columbus in 3 parts, 3 segments. And basically his motivation was to go and find gold, which he thought would be in the Caribbean because there's more sunshine there, and sunshine makes gold. That's what they thought back then. That's what he thought. And so he went down there, and guess what? Didn't find much gold. But he was trying to find that gold so that he could collect a bunch of gold to give to Spain, because he wanted to fund another crusade to take over Jerusalem. So, but he didn't find a lot of gold. He was put under certain rules about who to enslave. Like at that point in time, if you converted the islanders to Christianity, you couldn't make slaves out of them.
Yeah.
But if they were cannibals and they were horrible, despicable people, you could enslave them, send them back to Spain, sell them, and now you have cash that you desperately need to give to the queen, king or queen or whatever, so that they can fund a crusade to Jerusalem. That was the dynamic going on. So Columbus actually used morality as a tool to take those bad people, the Caribs, that was the name of the tribe, the Caribs, from which we get Caribbean, to enslave them.
Oh, good.
Because they're bad people. And now we can go to Jerusalem and take over Jerusalem. But the whole point being that our heroes are typically heroes because somebody's left out some information.
Well, hey, and just to answer to Bree real quick, the whole idea is, and I just showed her comments. It's the idea of the cancellation. I mean, it's fine. Okay, if somebody's going to act that way now, then yeah, they're gonna suffer the wrath of social media. Yeah. But like to go back and cancel someone from centuries ago that is dead, and to judge them by today's standards for their behavior centuries ago, that's what we're talking about. That's why do that? Yeah. Like there's no probative value in that at all.
Spend your energy on canceling Alex Jones. Somebody who's alive and active today.
Well, I think what we need to do is to cancel current leadership for promoting a particular character as an ideal for some value when they weren't. Why are we having heroes? Why do you have to lie by omission to maintain heroes of the past? So tell us everything, and we'll decide who we hold up as our heroes. We don't need no freaking government or Republican political party or whatever to tell us who our heroes should be. And if a political movement is pushing a hero on us, we need to know everything about that hero. We don't need anybody leaving out information to do that. I'm getting incensed now.
I think what Scott's trying to say is we're still waiting for somebody to find and release the P tape.
Yeah, exactly. We need the information.
But there's something that we have to consider here, and all atheists, all Christians, everybody should consider, is that we frequently pick out a person in this outer ring, right? And we talk about the horrible things they did, and then we make a group out of them, and we treat all Russian soldiers as having tortured and killed children in the Ukraine, and we make these judgments. And sometimes we take people, from our nation, like Alex Jones, and sometimes we take people from our community, and we judge them. And as soon as we judge them, we put them out here with the fly, and we justify anything we can do to them because we move them from this space out into this space, right? Like we do that famously with serial killers, and we swat them, right? And some of that is okay, and then there are good reasons to do that. Let's understand what we're doing when we judge people and move them into these outer rings, whether they be historical figures or people in our current community, in our current nation, and understand when we judge people, do it for practical reasons. Do not do it with hatred. We just ought to consider what we're doing when we judge people. Like people that we don't agree with their morals, So then we become morally capable of hurting them. I mean, what the fuck is that? That's almost like not what we set out to do, right?
What the fuck is that? Yep.
What the fuck is that? Okay, John. I'm shut up. I'm a shut up. John
This
is
the wrong
working on
number.
he's working on his tech.
All right, I have Bree on the line.
Free.
So let me know when she starts talking. Let me know if you're not hearing her good, and then I can put this speaker closer to this speaker.
I have Loki on the line.
And so at any rate, I'm going to step backstage and we'll let Bree take the floor. And as she begins speaking, please let me know if we need to get her volume up.
Hey, Bree, what's up? What do you think of our bullshit? I can't hear. Oh, because John is not here anymore. His audio is not here.
That's not
so
true.
We can't hear.
That's not true, is it?
I think it's true. So I can't hear.
Oh,
Bree.
all right.
I can't hear
okay. All right. So go ahead, Bree. Talk again. Let's see what's going on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
Can you hear them, Bree?
I can only hear John. No, I can't hear them. I can only hear you, John.
Really?
Oh, you know why?
This is good, though.
Wait a minute. You know why?
Earbuds.
Because I have my earbuds in. Yeah.
So,
put your earbud up to the phone.
No. I'm just gonna okay, hold on a second. Let's see, microphone.
It's pretty simple. You
speaker.
You take your device and you take your earbud.
All right, so hold on one second. I think I have it fixed. Okay, go ahead, Bree.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Scott?
I can hear you, Bree.
Yeah, you sound kind of distant, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Scott,
turn it up.
All right. So you were talking about cancellation, which is kind of a funny thing because you brought up Columbus, which is I would say like the pinnacle of what people point to when they talk about cancel culture.
Right.
You know, can you all still hear me? Can everybody still hear me? I feel like I can't, like I'm not being heard. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
I can hear you. I'm nodding as you talk.
All right. Okay. I'm on the. John's making me call in like some sort of CVN, so I don't get to see you on screen. God, that's too bad. I'm just you're nodding, but anyway. So what happened with Columbus is it wasn't. It was never an overnight thing that's like, oh, all of a sudden Columbus is bad. Let's get this guy out of our history books. It was more of like a slow reveal through the last 60, 70 years of what Columbus's contribution to Western society actually was, how much of it is built on truth. And it turned out that a lot of this hero worship for the individual was based on fictional fabrications. And people said, hey, all this stuff about this guy's made up. Let's be honest about it, and let's not pretend that they discovered the new world. Let's not pretend that they were integral to Western expansion of European society, which some people see as a social benefit on a global scale. But I don't necessarily have to agree with that to say that yes, that's something you can argue with or argue for. But Columbus really didn't do the things that his face was stamped on. He didn't really have that contribution factor that he was given credit for. And then when people say, "Hey, let's since he didn't do this stuff, why are we celebrating him?" Pretending that he did. He's a historical figure who actually did do some stuff that we don't talk about, and didn't do the stuff that we do talk about. And then people come back and say, "Oh, you're trying to cancel Columbus. We created this fictional hero around this historical figure." figure, and now you're going to come here and tell us that we have to change how we view that person based on what you think, or what you think is the true image that should be present of them. And that's the thing about that is that it's not even about what's the best image of Columbus for us to have. It's what's true, what's honest, what actually happened.
There you go.
You'll see the same kind of instances come up for people like Thomas Jefferson and some of the atrocities that he committed, or war criminals like Andrew Jackson, Robert E. Lee.
And don't forget about the larger than life Texas folk heroes, as epitomized in the legends of the Alamo.
Right. Yeah.
So real quick, I just want to jump in and say that, yeah, I mean, we use that example, and basically what we're saying is, just in general, what's the value in canceling people that have long been gone when we have learned the moral lessons and modified our behavior? So, I mean, I understand all the reasons you just listed are very good for why we don't want to have Columbus in our history anymore, but it's just like the whole subject of canceling long gone people. I just don't see what the value in that is, but I understand what you're saying about this particular instance of Columbus. Like, why put him up as this, great guy if he wasn't? But anyway.
And remember,
for these historical figures specifically, what I'm saying is, and what people are saying when they talk about canceling them, is just being honest about who they were, because we've been they're through the history books, like John was saying, larger than life. They deify these individuals and create false narratives about their life and how they interacted with the people around them and the impact that they had. And the politicians in the founding fathers are a great example of that. They were politicians. They were not at the time that they existed and were making these decisions. The people looked at the same way we look at our politicians now, which where how people think of politicians. They didn't have this idealizing image of them. That really didn't. That's really a product of the 1950s Red Scare stuff.
And just to put a pin in that point, if you go back and you look at politics in the 19th century, like before we had all like TV and all, like back when it was just all print and everything, it was insane back then. The shit that they said to each other as politicians, like in the media and stuff, was just crazy.
Okay,
Also,
go back and look at it. They said the same kind of stuff that they say now. They just went.
My apologies, Bree, but okay, yeah, hold on, Bree. But let the fellas get in here. Both Mike and Scott were trying to jump in. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so I agree completely with what you're saying, that it is about finding the historical truth. But let us be careful that we don't go the other way. We don't reach back in history and judge people for a context that they were not, that basically that that is foreign to us, right? If we go back and we start if we start to make them evil villains, we have rewritten history again in the wrong way. The truth of the matter is somewhere in the middle, and let's not be as judgy or as quick to judge until we basically fully consider what the truth of the matter was. And that's where we leave it. And that's where it should be. Okay.
Well, I was just going to say,
hold on a second, Bree. Hold on a second, Bree. Go ahead, Scott.
I can only respond to one of them at a time. You're going to get Scott and Steve. Okay, go ahead.
Scott next.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. I was just going to say that, remember, you're probably not in control of who has been set up as our heroes. When I was growing up, there were plenty of children's books that featured Columbus as this kind of hero of exploration and the spirit of discovery and the Renaissance, essentially. And they left out a whole lot in those children's books, all in the name of providing examples and heroes.
Right.
Columbus is, he has at least he used to have parades in his name and in his honor that were especially advocated and pushed by the Italian American community that wanted recognition for their contribution to America. So even though the focus was on Columbus, the emphasis was actually on a kind of pride about yourself for being an Italian American, a hard worker, which is fine. Just remember that just like you begin to question everything as you go through life, question your heroes,
Right.
because they may not be the people you think they were, and always seek more information about those heroes and be prepared to adjust your expectations and your viewpoints about that hero.
And then so Bree, we'll on this back and forth here, we're going to give you the final words. Close this topic out, and then we'll let you go and see if somebody else call in. But go ahead, Bree.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I agree with what Steve was saying about not going too far the other direction, because if you're going to demonize every person who had any kind of political power or was making any kind of decision that before the 1860s, they're probably going to be a slave owner. Like 80% of them would have been slave owners, right? So we can't say, "Oh, you're a slave, you're immoral. We're going to erase you from our history." That's not the way that's going to work. But things about the way that people operated as slave owners can be taken into consideration. And people like Thomas Jefferson, who had multiple children by his slaves, we do need to make that public. We do need to look at, no, this is the type of person that this guy was. Not to demonize him, not to go too far in a direction, but just to tell the truth about him and to give his descendants the recognition that they deserve as being a descendant from one of our founding fathers. One of the things that comes to mind when you talk about that pushing too far the other direction is things like the Nazis' contribution to science. I know that that's kind of a sticky situation, but there's a reason that things like Operation Paperclip happened. It was because these people were innovators, and these scientists were contributing greatly to the betterment of mankind, despite being part of this horrible regime that killed more than all these people.
Right.
So,
take 10 seconds and wrap it up there, Bree, and then we're going to move on.
Okay. Yeah. So there's definitely a balance among the modern society of what we should and shouldn't be sending forward. My opinion is that it should always be whatever's true about the person, whether it makes you feel uncomfortable about them or not. But yeah, that's why I think that what we call canceling, I think maybe could be called exposing or I don't know what other term you could use. So it's just telling the truth about someone instead of giving this colorful kids love version of them.
Right.
I'm done. I'm gonna go back.
Well, and then, hey, thank you, Bree. Thank you so much for calling in. And I just want to say to the audience, see, that was a perfect example there of what we're looking for, okay? The
pushback.
He came in with a differing opinion and duked it out with the guys here a little bit. That's what we're looking for. And, yeah, certainly atheists keep calling in, just like the other atheists call. But we'd like to hear from some theists too. So
I always love it when Bree joins the show.
Calling in, Bree.
So Bree clarified my position perfectly because I agreed.
All right, you have a great day, Bree.
So I agree totally with everything that Bree said, and it clarifies my position. So, but be careful of who your heroes are. Be careful of your villains too, and make sure you got the truth, which is usually somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I'm going
Anyway.
to go back to reading my my book, Forget the Alamo, because
Yeah.
that and this book called I forget what it's called, the Counter Revolution of 1836, which is all about Texas history and how things really played out, rather than what you hear through all the stories and museum pieces and political soapbox speeches that you hear about Texas. For instance, David Bowie, the inventor of the Bowie knife, is heralded as a hero of the Alamo. And he did lose his life at the Alamo, but he was basically, I forget what they called him, but he would basically kidnap slaves anywhere he saw them, black people, people of color, and transport them to New Orleans and sell them on the slave market there. And that was his job, capturing people of color and selling them off as slaves to the East Coast. And yay, hero! It's nice he made a big knife, So little things that they don't teach you in school on Remember the Alamo Day or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a really crappy thing about how morality goes bad when you start to bring in a rationale for judging another group, and you're able to label that group and make them outliers. Then you are free to do harmful things to them.
Yeah.
And that is a problem with rationalizing morality that we always have to be careful of. You're better off looking to your gut instinct about how do you feel about this act of violence you're about to commit on a fly, a piece of lettuce, or a raccoon or another human being. I mean, you're basically this inborn morality that we have is probably our best morality. And when we start to rationalize it and pick villains and heroes and whatever, we get way off base. And I think philosophers and religions are really fucking guilty of that, of turning it into a rationale and coming up with an answer that entitles them to harm another.
And the thing is too is people can hold I'm not sure what word I'm looking for, but like a multi-layered idea in their head. And so it's okay to say, you know what? Thomas Jefferson was a despicable person, and he helped create that narrative that the slaves back then weren't actually human. But then my always question is wait a minute, if they believed that the slaves weren't human, why were they fucking them? Okay, so yeah,
well,
Thomas Jefferson. Hold on. Thomas Jefferson was despicable because he, fucked his slaves. As Scott mentioned, he made several offspring with his slaves and the other horrible things he did, owning slaves. But you can also say, I am so thankful for Thomas Jefferson because he is one of the group that created this country that I was born into. And I have the standard of life I have now because I was born into this country. So, yeah, you can hold two opposing opinions about an individual and you can still laud them. I can still laud Thomas Jefferson for his contributions in creating this nation. And then on the other hand, say, but holy shit, for what he did back then, that was pretty despicable. But we don't have to cancel him to recognize that fact.
Well, first of all, I don't really know what cancel means. But once again, I'm in charge. At some point, I should be in charge of who I make my hero, and whoever I make a hero out of, hopefully I'm well informed about them.
I think cancel is a word created by the right wing to basically push back or something. It's like I don't think it's what we were doing, and Bree kind of pointed that out, and I probably didn't make that clear, but that should be clear. Cancel bullshit. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Anyway, Jesus equals shrooms.
Well, no, I mean, because here's the thing. That's an interesting point. Like, okay, cancel. When you think of it, because why do we need to publicly cancel, whether it's someone from the past or what? Because we're going to make those adjustments in our head. We're going to change our behavior. We're going to change what's acceptable to us as a group. And then those ideas are going to change in our head. So what's the point of the cancellation? Because the true goal is to change the behavior, change the way the person's looked at. And that happens when you get the information out there.
Yeah.
Like
the point is to consider that nobody's canceling anybody. We're just trying to get to the truth. Like Bree said, the cancel bullshit, the cancel label came from the right wing, where they were trying to save their Confederate flag and a bunch of other bullshit. So basically that's a rhetoric coming from the right. We probably shouldn't be talking about or using the word. I probably shouldn't have used the word to begin with. So did I use the word? I don't know.
I don't know.
I think we should use the word demythologize.
Yeah, we're 25 past. So
I was just going to say, do you think we should cancel this episode?
We should cancel this episode. Yeah.
Well,
so
we
yeah,
have provided a platform for dialogue for everybody who will hear this. If I screwed up, if y'all have some correction for me or wanted to point out something that I'm overlooking, there are comments down below. Please make a comment, and I'd be happy to see what you have to say, because I am unworthy to be anybody's hero. I'm so unworthy I can't even spell the word hero, as you can see there in front of me.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, although I did like the first season of the TV show Heroes.
Oh yeah.
I just want to get that out there.
Only the first season though.
Only the first season. After that, it was just filling out an hour on a Tuesday or Wednesday night whenever it came on.
Can I bring up something random?
Real quick, sure.
Harry Potter, what's his name? Daniel Radcliffe is going to play Weird Al in a movie about Weird Al.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think that's fucking epic.
Weird Al Yankovic was such a innovator, because when he first started doing his parody songs, I thought that was just the neatest thing in the world. I thought, you can do that?
Yeah.
Remember the movie UHF?
I do.
Yeah.
And then for some, you have like moments of your life that you go, gee, why did I latch onto that moment? And it's like part of the reel of my life. There's a scene in UHF where it's Weird Al or somebody in the radio station or the TV station walks up to a closet door that says supplies on it. And he opens the door, and there's a few Asian people in there, and they go, supplies, and they jump out at him. A bad Asian accent. Like, you can't even make a joke like that nowadays. It's stuck in my head. Supplies.
Anyway, they asked Weird Al why it took him so long to make another movie, and he said that he promised to make a movie every 33 years, and as far as he can tell, he's on schedule. So
all right. So Mike will, if he can download it, this will repeat on his channel at 7 p.m. Central tonight. Or if he can't get it downloaded, then it'll be tomorrow or next day. Or whatever. So the point is he's going to mirror the episodes every week at some point shortly after. Don't forget to watch the weather report on Answers in Atheism. All the appropriate links are in the description. Our Twitter feed's in the description. We'd love it if you folks would check in with our Twitter feed daily. I tweet once or twice a day from the Counting the Days Twitter feed. And then Scott and Speed, they get over there when they can and post how many days they've been circling the sun. So I guess that's it. Anything you wanted to share, Scott or Mike, before we get out of here?
Just this. Nothing else.
Okay.
That is a
Got it.
mushroom, I think, given
It
the
is.
context of the side chat.
Mushroom.
I
Okay.
don't know. I think to me, it looks like a road leading to a mountain.
Oh, fuck you.
Very interesting.
Fuck y'all. I can't
No,
draw.
I just said it was a mushroom.
You did, yeah. No,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, okay.
And then
Scott.
I just told
Alright.
John that was a very interesting interpretation of your picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
How much you
I
got to pay
don't
to get
know.
out of here?
I don't know.
All right. We've had enough of this. Okay. All right. Let's get this guy. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Get the fuck out of here. All right. Amateur conversationalist. That's me. This is my channel. But this show wouldn't exist without Answers in Atheism, without the Weather Report. So please make sure and get over there and watch them Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the Weather Report. But it could be any day of the week. They might decide to call out some Christian apologist that thinks they know science, but don't really know science. But yeah, at any rate, I think that was a good stream. I think they did explain very nicely to Christians where their morality comes from. It's not from that guy they think it comes from. And again, as Scott said, the discussion can continue in the comments section. Please go down there and call these guys out if you disagree with them, and they will respond to you. And we can, continue on, and we can revisit the subject at any time in the future. So let me just say to you that we want you to count the days with us, and we want you to make every day count. Thanks for stopping by today, folks.